So, what are we playing? We're playing a Fire Burst Elementalist. It's a really fun mapper that can clear multiple screens at once. I will try to just go through some of the interactions and how the build functions, also some issues that I encountered and how I solved them to make the build feel a bit better. The main part of the build is Fire Burst, which we get through the essence of Hysteria. Uh, so you apply it to a weapon, it will trigger level 20 Fire Burst on hit. So my weapon is this. I bought it and just slapped on some essences, and this is what I ended up with. You can make this a lot better. This is really not that great, but it's been working good enough for me. So every time we hit something, we will trigger the Fire Burst. It has a 1.5 second cooldown. That cooldown is a bit annoying, especially if you have mobs that have a chance to avoid ailments. You won't get those really big, nice ignites all that often. But we tried to scale that down with a pair of Shaper boots with cooldown recovery. Also, all the hypnotic jewels that I have cooldown recovery on them, and that's why we're using the replica Shroud of the Lightless. I've checked with the new normal Shroud of the Lightless, and you get some more defenses, you get some more normal sockets to have some more skills, which could be quite useful, but you lose some damage as well. The way we get the really big explosions is the Riot 10. It's not necessary, but it's really what makes the builds fun. So I really believe that if you think this looks fun and you want to play it, if you can't get this flask, it would really change how it feels. So I think this is mandatory for it. So when we start a map, we just Frostblink into a pack, and that will then trigger the Fire Burst. Using the Shaper of Storms, we will also shock everything that we hit, which will then trigger our Herald of Thunder, which will then keep applying the Fire Burst when it hits enemies. So that's how we can just jump into a pack and then just run the whole map if we're killing fast enough and never doing anything else. I used for quite a long time manual setup as well for Stormbrand with a Hex Touch support and flammability. But I saw a video from Luqas, I will link it below, which he had a good and nice tech that maybe everybody uses, I don't know. But it's trigger socketed spells when you focus. So when we focus, we now then trigger a Stormbrand, we trigger a Flame Surge, and we trigger flammability and elemental weakness. So this is a big upgrade and quality of life when you're fighting a rare, a tough rare, or a boss or something. One thing to just keep in mind is that these take quite a bit of mana to be able to trigger all of them. So it's over 100 and almost 120 mana. So if you don't have that, it won't trigger all of them. It will just stop, and you will see that not everything got triggered. So one of my main issues when I got up a bit higher into maps and the mobs started to hurt and the Crucible mobs are just ridiculous is that I kept dying. I was dying and I was getting one shot all of the time. So that's basically why we're using the Forbidden Flame and Flesh, and these are very cheap. I think one of them was 40 Chaos and one of them was 1 Divine, which frees up for us to take Bastion of Elements, which gives a pretty nice extra shield for elemental damage. But I was still dying to physical damage, which I then try to mitigate by getting good armor on my gloves and pretty decent armor on my boots, as well as having a granite flask with extra armor. This you could roll better if you're killing fast enough. You could also have it that it has increased effect. But I still didn't think it was enough, so we got determination in. We are using purity of elements and one offensive aura and malevolence. This could probably be changed for grace if you rather have that, but I'd like to try to get the consistency of my damage taken, so I don't die to the random one shots. But that's just how I feel. So the way we get 3 big auras in and a herald is a bit tricky. So I needed a malevolence on my helmet enchant. I thought malevolence was a good choice to take because then I got more freedom with my defensive auras if I wanted to switch them around, but it doesn't matter which one you have enchanted here. We then need an Enlighten 4 to be linked to all the big auras. And on top of that, I needed Charisma allocated. For my passives, I needed the whole cluster going to Sovereignty. And also a small cluster with mana reservation efficiency. I think this one is fine to go with a 25% increased effect. I think that will you'll still have enough mana, but that's barely. You could consider dropping something, maybe dropping some damage and going and taking the mana reservation here. But it's quite tight, so it's very quite specific. But I felt this was necessary to get my defenses up. And what really then pushed it over, I think, to really start feeling like I didn't die that much is the combination of Progenesis and a defensive class that I've never taken, I think. It's this. So this is 30% recoup. It's quite a lot, and it really works fine, I think, because now I don't die that much, and I'm running quite hard maps. I roll corrupted 8 mode, and I'll press on all the altars and everything. And of course, sometimes the combinations are just too bad, and I'll still die. But it's not that often, and it feels quite good. For gear, let's speak about the big annoying one, the Headhunter. It's really not needed. It will be better to use a cooldown recovery as Shaper Belt with defensive stats, and you can also, if you get it as a Stygian Wise, you can get another Jewel in, which is more damage and more cooldown. So this isn't the best belt, I think, but it's the most fun belt. If you can't get it, it's no worries. If you don't want to use a normal belt, you could also use the Harbinger belt that I can't remember the name on. I'll put a note on it, which is will make you run faster, and if you rather have the speed than the defenses. The weapon we have already looked at, but I can show you the passive 3. There's nothing game breaking, nothing that you must have. I managed to get global damage, onslaught on kill, some more damage from my the rolls on the weapon, and some more multi. So it's pretty good. I don't think there's a 5th slot that is needed or that will help that much, but maybe I'm missing something. Shroud of the Lightless to get as many cooldown recovery, jewels, and extra damage as possible. A pair of gloves. These one I managed to get quite cheap, I believe. I think I paid 2 divines for them, and I think they're really good. The fire exposure is very good. It's nice. It is a huge damage boost, so try to get that on whatever gloves you have, and as early as possible. The boots we have already looked at. I'd like to have elevated recovery rate, elusive, tailwind. Those two would be very nice as well to get some more speed going. Uh, the enchant is very nice. It really changes how much your crit chances. You can see it's at 19%. If I remove those, it's at almost just 12, so that's nice. The ring needs upgrading. Uh, it's not that good. We use the Polaric Devastation as all Ignite builds do. Nothing strange there. My amulet also needs upgrading. It needs fire damage over time multi. And same with my helmet. It's basically only a chaos resistance helmet. I really would like to have nearby enemies takes more fire damage or faster ignite if you get a elevated burning damage. For jewels, I'm using 3 of these, which makes it so that we get Burning Bright and Sadist. Since we are always shocking things, we are always igniting things, and we're shielding things with a Frostblink. Yeah. Also, 1 blowback and 1 ignite, cooked alive. Fan the flames you need to have if you want your Oride's End to prolife and really keep everything going. And then just more damage. Otherwise, it's not that much to say about it. The gear isn't that terrible expensive. Uh, the most expensive is the flasks. They are very expensive. The Riot's End is about 14 divine. The Progenesis is, oh my god, it's 22 divine. That's terrible. The Headhunter, as I said, is not necessary. That's just for fun. It's not best. So I think that's about it. I'll leave you with some Guardian and Conqueror maps. If you have any questions, leave them below and I'll see what I can answer. Thank you very much. Bye bye.